Hello everyone, welcome to GS Core. My name is Abhishek Saxena. So, in our series of current affairs regarding governance through MCQ, let us look at a few more questions. So, this question is about POXO, that is the Protection of Children from Sexual Offences Act. This act continues to be in the news for a myriad of reasons. The clamor for stringent enforcement and crimes related to children have been in news. So let us look at the set of statements that we have. The first statement, the act defines a child as any person below 16 years of age. Well, as I say that there is a focus of the news and then there is a locus of the news. So while the age of children and regarding the Juvenile Justice Act was also in news, and hence this is a trick here. So the age is 18, hence the first statement is incorrect. Second statement, it establishes the National Commission for Protection of Child Rights to ensure that all laws, policies, programs, and administrative mechanisms are in consonance with the child rights perspective. Well, it is not established by the POXO, rather it is the NCPCR Act itself, or rather the Commissions for Protection of Child Rights Act 2005, and not POXO, which establishes the NCPCR. Though the body works for the child welfare and child rights, but it is certainly not established by the POXO Act, and that makes the second statement incorrect as well. Now, let us look at the third statement. When the abuse is committed by a public servant, the sexual assault is considered to be aggravated. Before we look at the veracity of this particular statement, and let us keep it in abeyance, we have two statements that are conclusively incorrect, and we need to find the incorrect statement. So do we have any options which make all the three statements incorrect? No. So by the logic, B should be our answer. While we look at the third statement, we can conclusively say that this statement is not incorrect, right? Also vis-a-vis options and also vis-a-vis the provisions, because the act deems the sexual assault to be aggravated under certain circumstances, such as when the abused child is mentally ill or when the abuse is committed by a person in a position of trust or authority like a family member, police officer, teacher, or doctor, clearly alluding to the public servant category. And hence the correct answer is B. Let us look at the next question. So I was alluding to the JJ Act, and here it is. With reference to the legal provisions regarding the corporal punishment in India, consider the following statements. The JJ Act prohibits physical punishment and mental harassment of children and make it a punishable offense. Well, when we look at corporal punishment, aren't we alluding to the school or teaching institutions? Has Juvenile Justice Act got to do something with it? That's the big question. Because if we look at this, and education is one of the most important aspects of governance and social justice, it is something which is related to the right to education and not the JJ Act. So that makes the first statement as incorrect. Under the right, second statement, under the right of children to free and compulsory education, that is the RTE Act, every school has to constitute a corporal punishment monitoring cell to look into complaints of corporal punishments. Well, again, that is not part of RTE. Rather, it is the NCPCR and its guidelines, which basically talks about such a monitoring cell. Right. So the corporal punishment was at the center, and the various bodies and institutions, whether the Juvenile Justice Act, whether the RTE or the NCPCR around it, have been woven into a question like this. So we must be very careful to look at the various dimensions, right? So that makes this statement also incorrect, and we have to found that which of the above statements are correct. Clearly neither of them, so the answer is D for doll. Moving on to the next question. With reference to the Har Ghar Dastak campaign 2.0, consider the following statement. Well, Har Ghar Dastak campaign basically was initiated by the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare for COVID vaccination, right? So let us try and look at the various statements. This vaccination drive will cover the children of 12 to 18 years of age. Well, that is correct. It was heavily publicized. The health ministry is being supported by UNICEF in this campaign. That is also correct, because the campaign, if we look at, would largely focus on things like old age homes, schools, colleges, okay, prisons, right? So the idea was to touch the people who might have been left out of the formal vaccination drive due to some disability, due to some vulnerability. Okay, and hence UNICEF is a partner. Just to note, this was launched, the scheme was launched on June 1st, 2022. Okay, and the special focus was between this age group, right? And precaution dose to the above who are 60 years of age. This will be a school-based campaign covering all private and government schools. Well, that is correct, because daycare schools, madrasas, private schools, government schools, all sort of education institutions were sought to be covered. So that makes all the three statements correct, and we need to find the correct answer, and hence the answer is option D. Option D. Let us look at the next question. FIU, that is the Financial Intelligence Unit of India, the central agency responsible for implementation of PMLA, that is Prevention of Money Laundering Act. Well, FIU has been in news for more than one reasons, because of the fact that a lot of crackdowns have been happening on illegal foreign funding and the money laundering. Also, the demonetization case was in Supreme Court recently. Also, in relation to the FCRA, we will have to keep in track the laws which regulate the funding. Okay. So it's a simple question, that under which ministry does this FIU comes in and it's a low hanging fruit, the answer is Ministry of Finance. Ministry of Finance. So the answer is option B. Option B. Let us look at the next question. Central Consumer Protection Authority. Right. So that is the focus. There was a Consumer Protection Act of 2019, and this kept the Consumer Protection Authority in news. Also, campaigns like Jago, Grahak, Jago is something which is in the news and which is coming repeatedly on public media. And hence this CCPA, because we are in the governance era. So the citizens are being looked at as clients or customers. And the effectiveness of public service delivery is something which is central. So let us look at the first statement. CCPA is a statutory body established under the Consumer Protection Act 1986. Well, let me tell you, CCPA is indeed a statutory body and it has been established under the Consumer Protection Act, but not of 1986, but of 2019. The CCPA is empowered to suo motu order discontinuation of unfair trade practices and misleading advertisement. Well, that is correct, and that is what precisely is the mandate of the CCPA. So the correct option would be option B. Option B. Moving on. Which of the following statements regarding drones in India is correct? Well, drones are in news because of multiple reasons: cross-border mischief being carried out from Pakistan side, also the push to drones in India, right? And hence they have been in news. So let us look at the statements. Drone operations by foreign-owned companies are restricted in India. Well, the drone rules 2021 does not restrict any such thing. So the statement 1 becomes incorrect. Let us look at the statement 2. No pilot license is needed to operate micro drones for non-commercial use. Again, as per the drone rules, that statement holds true, that no pilot license is needed for micro drones for non-commercial use, nano drones, and for research and development organizations. So we have our answer in form of option B already, but it is important to look at all these statements. So let us look at the third statement. Import of drones for any purpose is not allowed in India. Clearly not the case. You have a lot of imported drones being available even off the shelf on the e-com websites. Ministry of Civil Aviation issues the certificate of airworthiness to drones. Well, clearly this is not the case, because the airworthiness has been delegated to the Quality Council of India as per the drone rules. Right. Hence, the correct option is B. Moving on to the next question. Consider the following statement. The Ministry of INB, that is Information and Broadcasting, has the powers to regulate the content across all sectors barring internet. Well, if we look at this particular statement, we'll have to see if there are other bodies which regulate the content across other sectors, because you have the non-regulation of sorts in the press vis-a-vis Press Council of India, where the regulation mechanism is not through a ministry. So we'll have to see. If we look at this statement, the IT guidelines are important that were notified in the year 2021, and it extended the regulatory powers over internet content too, especially on the digital news and OTT platforms. So that makes this statement incorrect. Second statement. In India, there are no specific laws on content allowed or prohibited in print, electronic media, radio, films, or OTT platforms. Yes, that is correct. There is no censorship sort of a law, right? However, there are exceptions built that, any such material that should not incite, people to resort to violence, etc. are there. But they have not been codified in a single law that, regulates the sort of content. There are no specific such laws. However, just like rules, there are rules, but no law. Hence, this statement is correct. Statement 3. The powers to regulate content rest only with the INB ministry. Well, that is true. That is true. So, we have second and third statement as the correct one. Hence, the correct answer is option C. Option C. Moving on to the next question. Consider the following statements regarding the Technology Development Board. It is a statutory body with the sole objective of commercializing the fruit of indigenous research. Well, this is correct. If we look at the Technology Development Board itself, it was formed under the Technology Development Board Act 1995 as a statutory body to promote the development and commercialization of the indigenous technology. Right? The board has 11 members, so this statement is correct. It provides equity capital or loans to industrial concerns and financial assistance to research and development institutions. Well, this is also correct. Basically, the idea is to act as a facilitator, right? And this is correct. Since both the statements are correct and we need to find the incorrect ones, hence the option would be option D, that is neither 1 and 2. So please remember what you are asked. So we are asked incorrect. In a rush, we can end up marking option C and hence earn minus 2.66 marks, right? Moving on to the next question. It is regarding the Sehat initiative. Okay. And we need to find the aim of Sehat. Offer telemedicine services. Offer telemedicine center in rural areas of India, where the people in rural areas can consult doctors online and also order generic drugs. Well, order generic drugs would make this statement incorrect. It is about a sort of a consultation to the doctors, but it is not about ordering of generic drugs. You have Jan Aushadhi already functioning. Extend the reach of specialized healthcare services to masses in both rural areas and isolated communities. Well, it is not the specialized healthcare, rather Sehat focuses on the OPD sort of a healthcare, where it is more of a patient to doctor system and patient can consult a doctor remotely, right? And it is not about specialized healthcare. The third statement, so that makes the first two statements incorrect. Provide teleconsultation services to all entitled personnel and their families of the three services. Well, that is correct. That is correct, because if we look at Sehat itself, it is an MOD initiative, that is Ministry of Defense, and it is essentially not for every citizens of sort, but largely, you know, related to the service personnel and their families. So we have a correct option, but we need to look at the last statement as well. Provide telemedicine services with practitioners of homeopathy, Ayurvedic, or other traditional systems of medicine. Well, that is clearly not the case. The idea is not to diversify the mode of medicine, but to provide accessibility to the personnel and their next of kin living in the country, probably in the countryside more so. So the answer is option C. Option C. Let us look at the next question. So moving on to the last question for this particular session. It is regarding academic bank credit platform. So as you are aware that education is one of the most important aspects of governance and social justice, and recently National Education Policy 2020 has been in news because the center and various state governments are now in a mode to implement this policy to attain its objective. The policy lays special emphasis on the interdisciplinary education and the credit system and the learning outcomes for the students. Okay, so in this slide, let us try and examine the very first statement. It is an academic service mechanism as a digital entity established by University Grants Commission. Well, this statement is correct because the credit transfer is very important for the migration from one university to another, lateral entry in courses, etc. Okay, and ABC shall deposit the credits awarded by the registered institutions into students' account. So this entire backbone is being created to facilitate that. The second statement, only institutions of national importance are eligible to register with ABC. This statement seems incorrect as it is not only for the institutes of national importance, rather it is for every sort of a recognized institution. So the answer is pretty simple. The answer is correct option is A. Right. Which of the above statements are correct? And hence the correct option is A, because we have clearly ruled out the second statement. So this ends this session vis-a-vis our 10 questions regarding current affairs. Please keep the focus and the locus approach in mind. And before we end this session, let me give you an information that you can attempt these tests online through the scanning of this barcode or visiting the link in the description of this video. More such exciting tests are in the offing on our platform. Simply access it by scanning the QR code here. So, thank you.